Okay, I got a little treat for you guys. You got to turn this one up a little. Just check this bass line out. Now, I really think that it's important to point out the bass line because sometimes, not always, the bass player is a highly underappreciated individual. Marc and Brian here. Speaking of underappreciated individuals, Marc Phillips, how are you doing today, man?
So there were a lot of rooms at this show where I was being stared at the whole time I was sitting, feeling these eyes on me, and I'm trying to listen. Stop looking at me. Damn it, which is kind of, my motto in life is.
That's ironic because I actually have another song for you, another funk song that I want to play for you real quick, and I think it's a Marc-inspired tune.
All right.
I'm walking in, everybody stares at me. You know it's Florida Audio Expo 2026. Florida Audio Expo 2026. And it goes, and it goes, and it goes, and it goes. Walking in.
So, if you can't tell by now, we are at Florida Audio Expo 2026, as the songs say. And Marc Phillips, editor-in-chief of pt.AUDIO, and myself, Brian Hunter, have canvassed, have combed, have conveyed, and
investigated.
It's been an interesting show. It's been good. I have a couple of global observations before we go into the rooms and some of the best of shows and all that. But I wanted to first say it's been a great show. In terms of flow, I was surprised by Friday. Pretty good traffic. And then Saturday, what would you say, Marc?
Same.
Good, right?
Same, but a lot of full rooms. And this is not a huge show, so sometimes that kind of concentrates it a little bit. But still, yes, exactly. Yeah. So, when you go to Expo, you think, the crowds aren't very much. They're spread out over square miles.
Yeah, it's good. Literal square miles. But I think you already touched on this a little bit. That being said, the room count's a little low on this one. There's like this trick where you're used to there's two wings, and you go one way, and there's like a full hallway of showrooms, and then you turn the elevator to go the other way, and there's just a single room or no rooms on that side. So it's kind of like a couple of floors. We got 3 floors of rooms, and only like half of those I have showrooms. So the intermediary smaller rooms, not too deep. I got to tell you, I spent a lot of time on the first floor. I always have a good time on the first floor. I'm kind of a first floor kind of guy at a show. I've just come to this realization. The rooms are bigger. It's got stuff going on, and the sounds are generally pretty good. That being said, I do get limited to the scope of what I see. If you only hang out on the first floor, it's high-end stuff usually.
The big rooms and the big systems.
But it's fun. It's entertainment. I'm glad we have that available. Small rooms is where we get down back to earth, get down to business, find something that you love, find something that you like.
This episode of the Occasional Podcast is brought to you by AudioQuest. All AudioQuest products, from the company's most modest parts to its most ambitious works of art, are thoughtfully designed to deliver outstanding performance and exceptional value, regardless of price. No matter how little or how much you invest, AudioQuest is made for you. Explore AudioQuest's award-winning cables, power products, and accessories at audioquest.com. Today's episode is brought to you by SVS. SVS is a favorite of the Occasional Podcast based on the class-leading performance of its acclaimed speakers and subwoofers. All backed by expert support and generous owner benefits. Learn more at svsound.com. That's S as in speaker, V as in volume, sound.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Wharfedale. For nearly a century, Wharfedale has defined the classic British sound, natural, musical, and effortlessly enjoyable. Nowhere is that heritage more alive than in the Linton and Super Linton. Their warm, inviting presentation, timeless cabinet design, and honest musicality capture everything Wharfedale has stood for since the beginning. What makes the Linton family so special isn't just the engineering, it's the philosophy behind it. These speakers deliver the kind of full-body, room-filling performance you'd expect from far more expensive designs, staying true to Wharfedale's belief that great sound should be within reach of every music lover. Heritage, craftsmanship, and real value. That's the Wharfdale way. Discover the Litton and Super Litton at wharfdaleusa.com.
Mark, this is a toughie.
All right.
But in terms of
you spring these things on me.
I know. He's not prepared, folks. He's not prepared.
And I have to start, looking at my notes, and you hear the flipping of the pages, and it's just a mess.
Okay, but let's say you walk in the front door. You got all this stuff in front of you. Did you have a favorite from the first floor?
I started off on the first floor as well, and there were some really, really good systems. So I think that my Friday was one great room after the other, and that was all down. So we had the usual stars of these shows, for instance, a Cora in the back room.
Yep.
That is as great as always. Kevin Hayes of FAC told me, he goes, it's pretty much the same stuff as you saw last time, but some of it's new. They had the Hana Umami Black.
Yes, I heard about this.
I'm reviewing it right now. I've got it strapped on the Bergman turntable, and it's quite amazing. They have it on the SAT turntable, which is $200,000, and it was really, really amazing. Cora is always good. Scott Walker Audio had a pair of, that's where Von Schweikert was, and there were a pair of Von Schweikert Ultra 11s, which are $350,000 or whatever. And it's been so long since I've seen Ultra.
Yeah.
And these are big. I mean, you can't, you have to take them apart and get them through the door. But it sounded really good. They were doing a lot of reel-to-reel. The sound it was panoramic. It was just well placed to the sides, outside of the speakers. They were playing Wynton Marsalis on reel-to-reel, and it was like the drummer was on one side, outside of the speaker, and the pianist was the other side. It didn't sound strange. It was just, that's where everything was, because the imaging was also spectacular. So that was an amazing one. Clarissa's, their systems are visually just amazing. They're the big panel speakers. They're gorgeous, and that had Past Labs. And I'll say that Past Labs is making a strong appearance at the show. There's a lot of rooms using Past Labs, which is nice. And so the Clarissa's room was great. And then, of course, we had, Audio Group Denmark, and they had their Orson T5s, which are our Greg Weaver just reviewed them, and he absolutely loved them too. And so that's always a great room to go to. So it started off being like, the familiar things going on, yet there were a couple surprises on the first floor too that I wasn't expecting.
So let me grab my notes. Tucked in the back. So tucked in the back. The House of Stereo, Echelon Acoustic Arts. Our friend from across the pond, but he lives here, Philip O'Hanlon, always an amazing curator of music. He was one of the very few people I saw, and he played a song off of Sour by Olivia Rodriguez.
Oh, yeah.
Jealousy. On vinyl, the big purple disc. Just to give you guys a frame of reference, there are like millions of women, young women on the face of this planet who have this album grasped firmly in their collection. But we would never normally get it here. And he spun it, and I was like, I think this is good. This is relevant, And then after that, he followed it up with Billy Bossa Nova from Billie Eilish. Also, a deeper track from a wildly popular album that sounds fantastic. I've said it for a long time. Her and her brother Phineas crushed it on the production side. Wow. As the story goes, he's spinning. I'm all impressed. I'm like, wow, this is like in tune with the rest of the world. And a guy goes, all right, we need to get some real music on here after those two songs. I never heard those songs. He goes on to play a song. The lyrics are, and I quote, how you do, how you do, how you do again. And that was his definition of real music. Now, that song might be great, but I was like, this is strange to me.
You don't want... So
you know what song it is?
Well, no, but the Florida show is always... I'm amazed at the audiophiles here because they're different. They're different from the other shows.
This is what I've come up with about the guys. It's a little more of that stereotypical audiophile look and attitude. It's not bad. It's just this. It's different. And it is a little more concentrated here. You just see a little more of that stereotypical whatever that goes on, and that's totally fine. We love our audiophiles. We love you guys. We love everybody that loves music, really. But it is like a little more, But
I was in that room, and Philip was playing something on it, and it was. I looked at it, and all it said was on the screen of the streamer or whatever. It said unknown studio outtakes, and it was disco, but it was like disco for audiophiles. It was just beautiful recordings, but it was very much, it sounded like, you know, you had a modern recording of some 70s tunes, but they were all instrumentals. It was really cool, though. I kind of liked it. It was just so different than, you know, what you usually hear at shows. And again, that's Philip O'Hanlon, who always has the great taste in music and in gear.
Yeah, he does a good job. And like I said, he's like a curation master and not what you would expect.
No, not at all. I like those guys, too. That's why when people ask me, oh, what would you like to listen to? It's like, why don't you turn me on to something new, man?
Down the hallway from that, we had our friends at Focal. They had a nice 3-way divided long room, and at the beginning of it, there was a new outdoor speaker they have. I am a fan of their rock looking like things.
Yeah, me too. I like that one.
It sounds so decent for an outdoor speaker. If you set it up right, you may be able to get a good stereo image, even if you had two. But then kitty corner from that, their new all-in-one, they raised the bar even higher on the all-in-one speaker they have. So the floor standing Utopia speakers.
Right.
And
those are really good.
Yeah.
They're expensive, but they're really good.
I'm not going to say they are expensive.
You won't listen to the speaker and necessarily think, oh, wireless still has a way to go. It's like, it's one of the best wireless speakers I've ever heard.
I would agree. It is the best wireless speaker I've heard. Their floor standards, their Utopias, they're expensive. Do not quote me on this, but I believe the new pair is upwards of around $60,000. But you can swap out the finishes, and they have the original finishes like a carpet look.
They're panels,
They're panels that pop off, but they look good. And the new panels, you can they'll do whatever color you want. And actually, they're like, we can work with different materials too. But they had 4 finishes at the show, and I was like, piano gloss black was there, and the glosses look really good. So you can shift it up from what they originally presented it with. Granted, all that stuff's pretty expensive too, but I was impressed with the sound. It was one of those moments where they started playing the demo song, and a crowd came in, and this doesn't happen all the time, but everybody was standing. He hit the music, and yes, there was a little bit of a demo trickery going on. He had a nice ding dong, bing bong spatial thing going, but people were I heard a whoa, and then people sat down.
Yes.
And then the bass kicked in. It was huge. You know how that goes, where it's like, hey, it's a trick. It's kind of quiet. Now it's really loud, but it's fine. And people were impressed, and I just like to see people excited about stuff, And this is a step towards what we might be looking at. I like the idea, and I talk about this. I'm going to talk about this a lot next season. 1 amp, 1 driver, fine tuning that. Not one amp for 5, 6 range. Just the single driver to a single amp, and how can we use that to our advantage to have even better sound? So that's kind of that exploration. I did get a chance to go through the rest of those on the first floor, and I thought exactly right, Mark. The staging was good. The sounds were very tasty. The Clarisis, I like the Clarisis. I like the ones that are slightly smaller. They look like sailboats, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
The ones that step down, a little more attainable, I think, the smallest one they have. And that, to me, is more of the sweet spot for the whatever, the price point. But
I think it was Axpona last year that Clarisis had their I think it's called a Pinnacle, but it's their flagship, and it is 9 feet tall, 6 towers.
yeah.
And so that one I remember blowing me away. But the Clarisis room, it sounded really good this time too, with slightly smaller and more manageable speakers.
Yeah.
And these are speakers that the design is so amazing and so different from everybody else that, especially for a panel, usually you see panel speakers in there. It's a big panel. And these are really beautiful creations. And if you walk up close to it, it holds up. When you examine the fit and the finish is amazing on these. I had 2 surprises. The first one shouldn't be a surprise because it was it's YG Acoustics and Bel Canto and J. Sikora turntables. So this was an amazingly simple system because it was the YG Acoustics was the Vantage Live system. Mm-hmm. And so you have an active speaker. It's a YG. It has Bel Canto amplification built into it, and it also has the DAC is also built into the speakers. Okay, and then they have a single piece from Bel Canto that almost looks like from their Black Series. They're integrated, and it's just called the controller. The controller has the phono stage, and they had the amazing J. Sikora Aspire. This is their entry-level turntable. It costs $10,600 with ARM, and I'm going to tell you right now that that is the be-all and end-all at that price point. I wouldn't. It is so good. Everybody agrees it is so good for the money.
Footnote it. Best turntable for $10K.
Yeah, $10K right now. I mean, I can't think of anything I would rather own than that. And I reviewed the larger initial Max, and it was great. This is just, it has no right to be this good for that price. And so I have a feeling like they're going to sell a lot of these, and it's really going to put Jason Core. Jason Core is already on the map, but this is really going to solidify their. I think it's amazing. And they had a Ortophon, one of the new MCX40s, which I think they said was only about $2,000 or $3,000, and you have the rest of it is all that YG Acoustics Vantage Live system, and it includes the speakers and the controller, the Belcanto controller, for around $70,000. So you're looking at about a total system price of $85,000. Now, and what's interesting is in terms of the cables, there aren't really any, except that the speakers are hooked up with fiber optic. And of course, I used to be a fiber optic splicer, so I know, but it's miles and miles without any kind of signal loss. And so they have these tiny, really thin little fiber cables running to the speakers, and you don't see anything else. It's amazing.
That's cool.
So I said, okay, this is interesting. And then it wound up being, wow, this is really amazing. I think it might have been the best system I heard on Friday.
Ooh, nice.
Yes.
Today's episode is brought to you by Expona 2026. America's largest high-fidelity audio show takes place April 10th, 11th, and 12th at the Schaumburg Convention Center near Chicago, Illinois. Plan a trip to the Windy City this spring and discover over 220 listening rooms of high-end audio equipment. Explore the latest in headphone hi-fi in Expona's Ear Gear experience and add to your record collection in Expona's Record Fair. Tickets are available now at www.axpona.com. Stop by Expona.com and get an exclusive sneak peek at the show by listening to Expona's Audio Insider podcast. Check out all the details and purchase passes for the 3-day event. Today's episode is brought to you by Pass Labs. For over 3 decades, Pass Labs has delivered unparalleled sound quality. Solid-state amplifiers designed by legendary engineer Nelson Pass and preamplifiers designed by Wayne Colburn come together to bring warmth and transparency to your audio experience. Handcrafted with precision and passion in the U.S., our world-class service department is here to ensure your Pass Labs products bring you joy for years to come. Listen with Pass Labs and discover your music like never before. Tired of audio reviews that sound like they were written by robots? Us too. For the last 15 years, Part-Time Audiophile has been an open revolt against boring. And this year, we're doubling down. We have a brand new look and a brand new name, but the same old attitude. Find us at pt.AUDIO for all your turntable throwdowns and amplifier face-offs. Great sound meets good times at pt.AUDIO.
You know what else was new to me that I'd never heard of? And every time we do this, there's always something new to me. I'm like, I never heard of that.
I'm like, no, I've known about that since I was a kid.
Mark knows everything, and I'm always learning. But we've talked about one of the many things that you've taught me, or at least brought to my attention, is a field coil design more recently. It's been around, of course, but it's kind of beginning a little more popular in a few miles. So the field coil speakers, generally we talk about them in the context of Audio Note UK. They have a field coil speaker. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you're a fan, correct?
I'm a fan of field coils. I reviewed the Songer Audios a couple years ago, and that was my first field coil speaker, and I was hooked.
So, news to me, apparently there's a field coil cartridge.
Yes, I heard this thing. They hinted at the fact this might have been one of the most ambitious Audio Note UK systems that they've ever done at a show. And so they had just top everything. So this cartridge, it's the I/O, but because it is a field coil, there are actually 6 pins on the back of the cartridge. And so it looks busy back there, I'll say that, but because 2 of the leads go to the field coil power supplies.
Oh.
So that's the difference. So, but the rest of it, they had the Audio Note A&E speakers, they're the field coil speakers, and they said field coils to field coil is apparently this amazing thing.
Do you know anything about those amps? Because they look gorgeous.
Okay, so that is the Onganku. That is the famous, legendary Audio Note UK Onganku. It was back in the 90s, it was 50 grand. And everybody said, 50 grand for an amp? It's 211. It's got something like 21 pounds of pure silver wire inside of it. Yeah. They had that. They also had their new TT3 reference, which is a new flagship. And everything in this system was really, really like sticker shock, considering it's a very small, compact system.
Right.
And so the A&Es are, they're 8-inch two-ways. They're kind of stand mounts, but the stands are real small. They're like Vandersteen 2Cs. But everything was just the best. I asked if it was level 6, because they all have levels. Adrian of Audio Note said it was more like 4s and 5s, but still, they've got a new amplifier coming out. It's the new Oto, which is like $5,000. And they said this is probably the last time we're going to be able to build a system like that, because then we're going to have to start showing the Oto, and it's going to be a more modest system, but it's our new product. I was trying to figure out which was better, because this at this show might have been the greatest Audio Note UK system I've heard. Ooh. And I've heard Peter's system, which is
from Mark.
Well, it's really funny too, because when I sat in the near field position, at the sweet spot in the middle of it, it was like I entered a little planet of sound, to borrow a Pixie's term, but it was so clear and so pure, and you don't even think you're listening to all the tubes you're listening to, and the field coils and all that. It just sounds neutral.
And they still, even with their highest designs, they go against the grain a little bit, because they tend to back their speakers up against the wall, even at the highest level.
You're corner loading them, you're actually side loading them. You're not pushing them to the back necessarily. You bring them out. You bring them out a foot or two from the back, but you do kind of angle them in from the sides, and that is how you get 18 hertz from an 8-inch two-way speaker, because it's energizing the room that way. Yeah. So, but everything about this system was just unbelievable. And you know what Audio Note UK is against the grain, like you said, and a lot of people don't get it and don't like it. And so, we understand that. And I have a lot of people saying, I don't know why you love that Audio Note stuff so much. And it's like, I love it because it sounds like music. It doesn't sound like hi-fi, it sounds like music. And so that was a really amazing system. Probably one of my favorites of the show so far.
What was your second one that you were?
That was the second. That was the second one. You read my mind. You read my mind. We're so in sync, dude. Okay, and then of course I revisited Angie at American Sound of Canada, and she's the one who taught me back in Capital Audio Fest that I actually really do like avant-garde acoustic speakers. I just haven't heard them properly set up at a show until she did it. And avant-garde has a new entry-level speaker. It's called the Opus One. It's an active speaker. They're $18,000 a pair. And I just sat down, and it was run with some airtight, a Grimm music server, airtight amplification, which she just started representing. And it was you're embraced in this sound, and this kind of sphere of sound that is just amazing, and it's full and tremendous bass. These are going to be a big deal, I think. Avant-garde, $18,000 a pair is relatively cheap for them. It is their entry level. It's their smallest speaker. They don't have the big horns. They're kind of flat horns, but that was amazing. That was a huge surprise.
We also got the chance to listen to some stuff together early this morning. Esoteric has a new DAC streamer. Do you have any of the details on that in the Book of Wisdom?
In the Book of Wisdom, actually, I took a photo of the price list, but they talked about it. They were the guy from TIAC who was there from Japan. He went into great detail. I said, well, this is a show report. It's going to be 400 words, so I'm not going to get all this in. But it was still showing how they developed their DAC board. There was more of everything on the new board, and that allowed it to be more powerful and faster and more dynamic. And that's really what you don't want any lag time on this stuff. And I've listened to Esoteric for years. And it's one of the giants, I think of all the great rooms. Von Schweikert used to use them in their system, and Magico and Wilson. But I think that you should play around with them, but hopefully I'll have a chance.
Yeah, I thought he did a great job at the presentation. The basic takeaway was just that they haven't stopped, put the brakes on. They had their last gen and this gen, they went deeper. The DAC board was like quite immense. It had a ton of, I didn't understand all the componentry, but he definitely, they brought in a lot more.
You were asking
design.
good questions though.
Yeah, but
you almost sounded like you knew what you were talking about. And we're talking about building decks. You're asking about the programming and all that stuff. And I said, "Wow, Brian, that's a good question."
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering about. Usually, one of the things that people tell, I know the feature sets for these things, right? I know what other people tell me, not how to make it. And I know that a lot.
And he was talking to us as if we were like fellow engineers.
Yeah,
so he was going deep.
And it was great to hear him talk about it. But like when it comes to the DSPs and the programming and the filters that everybody says, oh, we got a custom filter. I just ask questions about that. Like, hey, what level of intent have you put into programming this chip? Because the programming can affect the sound just as much as the silicone hardware itself.
Right.
So that was my main point that I asked him, and he had a great answer. And they put a lot of stuff in, and it's expensive, but they're doing good things. And I think we talked about this a lot this year. Is that the bar for digital? The takeaway, guys, is the bar for digital is going up. It's not done yet.
Well, everybody wants to turn their digitals, they want to say it sounds just like analog. And I did that with the Master Fidelity deck, which sounds like analog master tape, which everybody said, no, it can't. It's like, well, go listen to it. But this is the same thing Esoteric said. Their goal in this new DAC, in the streamer, is to make it sound more like analog. And I'm all for it. This is how the final push I got into digital was when I heard it sound really close to the best analog.
Yeah.
And this one came close, too. It's really good.
Yep. Huge. I'm excited.
You want to review some?
No. I want to get it there, and then I want it to trickle down, and I want everyone to have the joy that Mark and I feel when we listen to a great vinyl rig. I mean, it's just phenomenal fun.
It's amazing. Digital is getting really, really good.
Yeah. All right, what's your next one on the list?
Okay, I'll give some love to Border Patrol, our old friends at Border Patrol, and Tryout and Living Voice. And so they had their usual system, and for the last few shows, Gary Dews of Border Patrol, and it's also Pete, Tryout Pete.
Nice guys.
Tryout Wire Labs, inexpensive, really great cables for the money, because this system was amazing. So they have the Living Voice, and it's the R50s. It's not their flagship, but of that line of the more dynamic speakers, they have big, wild horn speakers that are really expensive. But this is the largest one of their 2.5 way or whatever is the Apolito configuration, as many of their models are. And it's just big. I think it's a little over 50 a pair, maybe closer to 60. But it is the sweetest speaker. I've always enjoyed it. It's sweet and it's extended and it's beautiful. It always sounds beautiful. It's really a spectacular speaker. And they're kind of on the big side. I'm sure they're really heavy. Yeah. But I would love to review those. Then I had something else, Soundfield Audio. And all I saw was they were really pumping it up as, oh, he's local and he's a local speaker builder in Tampa. And so I go, okay, so I've seen these guys before. They're local, and they get in on the show. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. This guy, he doesn't have models. He has different types of speakers, but he'll do everything custom for you. And so he had a big, I guess they were line array speakers that were playing. And I was like, you know what? They're about $26,000 a pair, so not crazy expensive. It had gorgeous bass and great imaging, and I kept thinking, I should know more about you if you're making speakers this good. He works with Orchard Audio. The two rooms were next to each other. Orchard Audio was using Soundfield Audio speakers. Speakers were active, and the modules, the amp modules that are inside the speakers are Orchard Audio, the GANFET. Both rooms were really, really good. But this guy, people should pay attention to him because he makes really good speakers, and he makes all kinds of some dynamic speakers. There's some bookshelf speakers. There's big arrays, like I said. And he knows how to do it all. He's like, oh, you want it? I'll build it for you.
Wow.
And I thought that was pretty impressive.
You know who else I thought was I did a video. I've been shooting a lot of videos, so if you guys have a chance, stop by any of our video channels. We got the Facebook Reels, we have a YouTube channel, and we have a TikTok, believe it or not. But I did a video from our friends at SVS, because they always have a big, powerful room going, like pressurized in there. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
And they had them all the way at the end of the hallway, and they always are at the end of the hallway.
They are, aren't they?
But this was a funny condition because there were a bunch of empty rooms leading up to them, and they were still placed at the end of the hallway. So there's like the next closest room was like probably 10 rooms down. It was so hilarious. They were still at the far end, and even with that location, you would not believe the draw they have. People show up just to hear them.
That room was full.
Full. I mean, full. It's so impressive. People come in droves just to hear them. They do surround sound. Sometimes they're out of the box that way. And again, this time, I can't even get in there.
They were doing, when I was there, they were doing a demo, and they were comparing classic rock tracks that we all know. I mean, it was nothing obscure. It was when I walked in, they were playing Rumors, but they were doing it.
What album was that?
What?
It's the number one selling album of all time, I think, on vinyl or close.
It's one of them. It's
close. Like, it's Pink Floyd Dark Side and Rumors like right under.
Well, Thriller, Michael Jackson Thriller's right there too.
That's a huge one, yeah.
So anyway, so they were comparing, and it was it's multi-channel. It's 5.2.2, which means just the last 0.2 is 2 subwoofers instead of 1. Mm-hmm. And so they had 2 subwoofers in the front and then 2 more in the back with surrounds. And they were comparing traditional 2-channel mixes of your favorite albums, and they compared it to Dolby Atmos when this 5.2.2, and every time it was like, oh my God, wow. And then the final treat, amazingly enough, is they kept it sounded better and better and better. The final one, which the guy running the room said, Larry from SVS, he said this is the greatest Dolby Atmos he's ever heard, and it was Rocket Man. And he said, wait till you get to that word. And it came, and it was really impressive, but I'm not a multi-channel guy, never have been. I've actually dissed it in the past, but that was a really fun demo, and it made me say, you know what, this is really fun because I've never heard these songs like this before.
Yeah, there was a couple of mixes I've heard where they'll do a behind the scenes, and the guy will talk and be like, I was part of this project, and I just wanted it mixed in this extremely strange way. And one of the times on one track, it was crazy, the guy kind of just did one instrument per speaker. The bass was only going through the sub. This one channel, only one guitar. The other channel, only one guitar. And he had mixed it. I think I talked about this a lot, but it's worth repeating. He made it what it felt like he was on stage. The guitars are behind him, so the guitars are coming out of the rears. It's totally different than when you're at a concert and they're in front of you on the mains. So I just was like, yeah, you get fun treats. Especially if you're reviewing old music that you know and love.
Right. That's why they did it. That's why they did it. So everybody would say, I know what this sounds like.
Yep.
And then they go, oh,
sounds
Dolby
different.
Atmos is kind of cool. Deep Dive Audio, which is a local dealer, but they had Margulis in the main system in the room. And I've known the Margulis family for many, many years. Over the years, Margulis is getting more and more upscale, but now they are really, really, really chasing after the best sound. Their sound is warm and it's emotional and it pulls you in anyways. They do everything. I mean, they're just really, really, really revealing and detailed and everything else that you should have with your warmth anyways. I keep pushing that. Yeah. And they've got a new turntable coming out. And when he played some vinyl on it, it was like, okay, it was still in prototype form. He's going to make some cosmetic changes to it. But the sound-wise, it's $7,000 with arm, and it sounded amazing. Amphion, which usually doesn't really get on my radar very much, but then I always forget that they're actually really good because I think they look like other speakers, but then when I listen, I go, this is really good. So Amphion had a really small, petite, 2-way floor stander, and it was being run by Advanced Paris.
Oh, yeah. If you guys know, we love it. We're big fans of Advanced Paris.
It looks like mid-fi stuff, and then you listen to it. I reviewed their biggest integrated. I really liked it. It has a bunch of features, and the DAC inside sounds good and everything. And so I thought it was kind of lifestyle because it's very beautiful. It's like a French Macintosh with the glass faceplates, but instead of green, it's blue. Yep. And so they have their new Apex line where they went through their line and they beefed up everything. So they had that stuff, and with these little Amphions, they're $7,000 a pair, which sounds like for these little things. And of course, the conclusion is, oh my God, once you listen to them, you understand. They were really small and they were really mighty. I was very impressed with that. So that's going to go on my list of big surprises.
Big surprise, yeah. It's like we have best sounds, best surprises.
Yeah. It's a surprising show.
It is a surprising show. It surprised and delighted me. I feel like this, the energy's been good. The people have been friendly. One thing I learned about Florida this trip that I just cannot speak enough about, my favorite thing probably of the whole state, when you turn your turn signal on, the people let you in.
Oh.
And every time. And always. These people are like so nice in that way. I can't believe it. So yes, thank you Floridians for the hospitality and the lane changes. Generally, overall, just a good vibe here in terms of like kindness and getting along and all that stuff. So super great sound, super great fun. Did you have a best sound so far? Do you have any?
Right now, it's really between that YG acoustic system and the audio note. I mean, that audio note I've always liked audio note a lot. This is kind of heaven for me. that this is how good it gets. It costs a lot of money to get here. Yeah. And audio note, I mean, they can be on the bottom end of the line. It's actually really good value, but they have the crazy stuff like the Onganku. The Onganku is now $168,000 for 21 watts per channel.
I really wanted that thing. I'll never have it now.
I know somebody personally knows somebody who has one. It changed their life.
Yeah.
26 watts per channel, 211 tubes.
And I would like to point out the uniqueness of this nomination because generally speaking, it's one of the big rooms. It's a lot of the big rooms. I like the fact that you're talking about a regular listening room, regular size.
Right. A lofty system, but designed to work in a smaller room.
It's not cheap, but I mean, it works the room. And again, they're like against the wall, almost not against the wall all the way, but
side loading.
Yeah, side loaded, unique, and they're not huge. And then we have a nom from Marc for it. So congratulations, Audio Note, breaking the mold.
Yes, they definitely break the mold. But this surpassed my expectations. I knew it was going to be good when I saw the list of equipment that they're going to use. And it was top of everything, and it was an Onganku. I go, oh, cool! I haven't heard an Onganku in a long time. It surpassed my expectations.
Hell yeah!
Right now, I can't stop thinking about that system. How good it was.
So, anything else? Any final thoughts? Any parting final thoughts from the show?
I'll mention one last great room, and of course Gershman, and they've got their new Symphoria speakers, and they had a really nice system.
And again, this is something you can't avoid. Weather was fantastic. I mean, it's like been in the 80s.
It's warm.
February 80s. A pretty fun show.
Where I live, it's not this warm in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
So this is unique. It's been in the 80s, the low 80s. But a big rainstorm is going through tomorrow.
We'll see. Maybe we need to appendage this with, did we get home or did we all get stuck? Because it has happened.
Oh, somebody told me they got stuck.
Everybody's gotten stuck.
Howard Neller of the listening chair told me, he goes, I just received news that my flight is canceled. And I can't remember where he lives, but he said we're getting 18 inches of snow before the end of the day. And I'm like, and then that's going to be here tomorrow.
Marc, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. Appreciate you flying out here and really taking this thing by the horns and crushing it. What do we have on the horizon? I think the next time I'll see you, Expona, Chicago.
Expona's like 6-7 weeks away, and that's a busy show. So this is easy. I mean, I'm covering this whole show basically by myself, even though Scott Hull is out there. We don't know what he's doing, but he is active. There was a time yesterday where I kept walking into a room and he was in there. Where he kept walking in, and I'm like, are you following me? I started telling everybody that I was getting my performance evaluation. And that's why he was following me around. HiFi shows, there's some weird things, but it's also, this is the best way for audiophiles to get out and listen.
Yes.
And hear 100%. What's out there. Hear what things sound. And, I run into a lot of people who are doing a lot of vintage audio, and because they said, oh, I don't like the modern stuff. The modern stuff kicks ass. Yeah, it really does, the right ones.
I couldn't agree more.
Yep.
All right, Marc. Thanks again.
All right, man.
The Occasional Podcast is a production of the Part-Time Audiophile Network, which includes parttimeaudiophile.com, The Occasional Magazine, the PTA newsletter, and audiohead.com. You can stay in touch with us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. The Occasional Podcast is produced and hosted by Brian Hunter. Executive produced by Scott Hall at PTA Productions. The Occasional Podcast and its original associated music is monitored, mixed, and mastered on the Focal Trio 6 BE studio monitors. AI songs produced by audio.com. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Occasional Podcast on iTunes, Google, Spotify, or wherever your favorite podcasts are downloaded.